Of petitions, there are none. Introduction and references of bills will be deferred. Reports of committees will be deemed read. Amendments deemed adopted. There are no messages from the Governor. There are no messages from the Senate. We move on to motions and resolutions. Mr. Torrico.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Request unanimous consent to allow Assemblymember Torres to have guests and photographers on the floor today.
I'm sorry, Mr. Torrico. Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I request unanimous consent to allow Assemblymember Krikorian to personally adjourn in memory of an individual today.
Without objection.
Sorry, Lord.
Members, today is Small Business Day, and there is a luncheon taking place that many members are wishing to attend. Please see Ms. Ma if you are making that request. We are doing it a little differently this year than in years past. So before requesting a pass, please check in with Ms. Ma. Members, we will move on now to business on the daily file, beginning with the clerk on our second reading. Clerk will read.
Summary Bill 1086, 1119, 792, 222, 226, 300, 311, 347, 354, 612, 646, 648, 678, 691, 791, 797, 852, 868, 881, 904, 907, 979, 995, 1005, 1012, 1014, 1053, 1066, 1072, 1122, 1132, 1160, 1198, 1242, 1280, 1307, 1315, 1330, 1340, 1380, 1411, 1412, 1423, 1500, 1512, 1521, 1535, 1536, 1541, 1546, 1547, 1571, 129, 249, 257, 305, 333, 428, 446, 471, 544, 568, 659, 778, 25, 861, 866, 982, 1004, 1085, 1100, 1120, 1165, 1222, 1268, 1324, 1325, 1351, 1364, 1394, 1443, 1489, 1515, 1580, 296 with amendments, 243 with amendments, 921 with amendments, 1083 with amendments, 233 with amendments, 829 with amendments, 1523 with amendments, and Assembly Bill 1474 with amendments.
All bills will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. We move on to concurrence. There is none at this time. Reconsideration, we will pass temporarily. We move now to We'll continue the motion to reconsider on file item 94. We'll move on to Assembly third reading. File item 95 is passed temporarily. File item 96, Ms. Carter is ready to take that up. So members, we have a bill being presented on the floor. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 114 by Assemblymember Carter, an act relating to juveniles.
Ms. Carter, you may open.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 114 allows counties to adopt a restorative justice program. Restorative justice holds at its core that long-term public safety is best served when victims, the community, and offenders engage together as active participants in balanced effort to accomplish community protection, offender accountability, offender competency in education, vocational, civic, and social endeavor. It is important to know that restorative justice is about showing youth offenders the harm they cause and that crime victims are fully engaged in the process. This is not a mandate, but gives counties the option of adopting a restorative justice program. Although there is nothing currently stopping counties from adopting a restorative justice program, this bill serves the purpose of letting counties know that this option exists, and should they choose to adopt a program. Restorative justice will bring in addition or improved programs to the state juvenile justice systems and bring victims, the community, and juvenile offenders together to restore the harm caused by crime. The effectiveness of restorative justice programs have been documented both in the United States and worldwide. Given the dire budget crisis, any savings that can be achieved by keeping our youth out of the prison system while producing productive citizens is something the legislature should strive for. I'm currently working with the governor's office and my colleagues to create a bill that will address any lingering concerns with this bill. The bill contains no general fund appropriations, and I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 Ms. Ma moves a call. File item 97 is passed and retained. File item 98 is passed and retained. File item 99 passed temporarily. File item 100 passed and retain. File item 101, pass temporarily. 102, pass and retain. File item 103, Mr. Davis, this is for purpose of amendments. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 496 with amendments by Assemblymember Davis.
We're both ready.
Mr. Davis, you may open on the amendments.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. The amendments on AB 496 clarify that a tire dealer shall disclose the date of the manufacturer and information about risk of tire age, specifically regarding passenger and light truck automobile tires at the point of sale or prior to the installation. It exempts the private sale of used tires, the sale or lease of any new or used vehicles, and finally exempts the sale of tires by a motor vehicle dealer whose primary business is selling or servicing motor vehicles. I ask for your aye vote.
We can take up these amendments on a voice vote. Members, all those in favor of adopting the amendments signify by the usual sound of aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments are back to print. They're out to print, back to file. Mr. Torrico, we'll return to motions and resolutions.
Madam Speaker, I request unanimous consent to refer AB 581 by Mr. Torlakson from the Appropriations Committee to the Rules Committee.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I request unanimous consent to waive the file notice requirements to allow the Appropriations Committee to hear AB 233 by Mr. Smythe, AB 829 by Ms. Caballero, AB 1474 by Mr. Cook, and AB 1523 by Mr. Calderon on Thursday, May 28, 2009.
Without objection. We move now to file item 104 for purposes of amendments. Ms. Conway is ready to present. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1094 with amendments by Assemblymember Conway.
Ms. Conway, you may open on the amendments.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. The amendments to AB 1094 relating to abandoned records remove the opposition by adding clarifying language to the bill to ensure this bill is adding no new requirements or regulations on how businesses destroy or store their records. This bill only addresses how businesses coming into possession of abandoned records are to deal with them. These amendments have been agreed to by all parties, and I ask for your aye vote on the amendments.
Seeing no debate or discussion, we can do this on a voice vote. Members, all those in favor of adopting the amendment signify by the usual sound of aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print, back to file. We move on to file item 105, Mr. Hill. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 499 by Assemblymember Hill, an act relating to the environment.
You may open, Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 499 clarifies that the real party in interest named in a California Environmental Quality Act lawsuit for a particular project are those listed by the lead agency as recipients of approval in the agency's notice of exemption or in the notice of determination. Under current law, these recipients of approval are the indispensable parties, which must be notified in case of a lawsuit. Unfortunately, in many cases, the entity bringing the lawsuit is unclear as to who these parties are. However, failure to name all recipients of approval can lead to the case being thrown out, which is what occurred in the Court of Appeal in County of Imperial versus Superior Court. AB 499 seeks to eliminate current inefficiencies by amending CEQA to clarify which parties must be named in litigation regarding a CEQA project. This bill has the support of both the environmental community and local governments, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no debate or discussion, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 All members vote who desire to vote.
That's you. You and me.
All members vote who desire to vote. Mr. Hill moves a call. We move to file item 106. Ms. Ma, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 517 by Assemblymember Ma, an act relating to body art.
You may open, Ms. Ma.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, members. Assembly Bill 517 enacts the Safe Body Act Art of 2009 in order to provide statewide standards for the regulation of tattooing, body piercing, and the application of permanent cosmetics in California. California currently does not have enforceable statewide standards that are specific or detailed enough for consistent and effective local enforcement. AB 517 ensures that health and safety standards are adopted statewide. Specifically, AB 517 will require practitioners to utilize single-use and/or sterilized tools, to be trained on blood-borne pathogens such as HIV and hepatitis, and will establish standards for sanitation and safety. This bill will help protect the health of body art consumers and practitioners and will provide local authorities an effective avenue for enforcing these standards. To date, AB 517 has received no votes. Its supporters include members of the body art industry, local health authorities, and the American Red Cross. Members, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no debate or discussion, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 54, noes 0. Measure passes. File items 107, 108, 109 are passed temporarily. File items 110, 111, 112, 113 are pass and retain. File item 114 is passed temporarily. 115 pass and retain. 116 pass temporarily. Okay. File item 117 is passed temporarily. File item 118 is pass and retain, which takes us to file item 119. Ms. Skinner is prepared to present that. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1276 by Assemblymember Skinner and others, an act relating to international trade.
You may open, Ms. Skinner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, Assembly Bill 1276 provides state oversight of international trade agreements. It has become increasingly clear that international trade rules affect state sovereignty. Many common state procurement, investment, or other policies could be challenged under the rules of various trade agreements. AB 1276 would protect California by prohibiting the unilateral binding of the state to the terms of any future international trade agreement. AB 1276 is a step to ensure that while we are encouraging expanded trade, we are also safeguarding the state legislature's jurisdiction over decisions with respect to non-trade policies. The bill provides critically needed accountability and oversight of federal-state consultations regarding trade. 4 states, including Rhode Island, Iowa, and Minnesota, have already addressed this problem legislatively, and many more states are considering doing so. The bill has no direct fiscal impact and has a wide range of support from over 16 organizations, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Perez.
Madam Speaker and members, I rise in support of AB 1276,
As the chairman of the Policy Committee responsible for the oversight of issues relating to international trade, I want to share a few reasons why this bill passed out of committee last month. In 2003, the legislature and the governor agreed to eliminate the Technology, Trade, and Commerce Agency for a number of reasons, including the poor management and lack of outcomes from its international trade program. For 3 years, state agencies had no authority to undertake international marketing activities. In 2006, after years of debate, a bipartisan agreement was reached. This agreement included a number of new checks and balances to better protect the interests of the people of California. The 2006 agreement specifically provided for the legislature and governor to jointly engage in the ongoing development and implementation of the California Trade Program. Just one example of the shared responsibility is that the legislature is required to provide approval prior to the governor opening any foreign trade office. When that 2006 agreement was reached, it did not address the issue of this bill. That is the question of whether the state should bind itself to future trade agreements negotiated by the federal government. AB 1276 addresses this important issue by prohibiting any state official from binding the state to provisions of a proposed international trade agreement without specified statutory authorization. I ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Berryhill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise in opposition to this bill at a time when California needs to do everything to improve trade. This just simply ties the hands of our governor, and I strongly urge a no vote. Thank you.
Seeing no further debate or discussion. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I urge a no vote on this measure. This measure was similar to a prior bill, SB 348, that was vetoed by Governor Schwarzenegger. In his message, he indicated that this bill will not accomplish its intended goal because the Supremacy Clause of the United States Constitution, international trade agreements and treaties preempt state law. I urge a no vote.
Seeing no further debate or discussion, Ms. Skinner, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 1276 would not limit California's ability to engage in trade, and it does not interfere with federal jurisdiction over trade. The bill does not cover any traditional trade matters such as tariff rates, quotas, or custom rules. It simply provides a legislative oversight before the state enters into binding and unilateral trade agreements. I request your aye vote.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 Ms. Skinner moves a call. File item 120 is passed temporarily. File items 121 and 122 are passed and retained.
I got amendments on 122. Thumbs up those amendments.
Oh. Mr. Fong, you prepared on the amendments? File item 122 for purpose of amendments. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1288 with amendments by Assemblymember Fong.
Mr. Fong, you may open.
Madam Speaker and members, these amendments simply update the unemployment statistics in the bill. In addition, it adds my colleague, Assemblymember Bill Berryhill, to the bill as a co-author. I ask these amendments be adopted and that the bill go out to print and back on file.
We may do this on a voice vote. Members, all those in favor of adopting the amendment signify by the usual sound of aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print, back to file. File item 123, Ms. Brownlee is prepared to present. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 572 by Assemblymember Brownlee, an act relating to charter schools.
You may open, Ms. Brownlee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 572 requires charter schools to comply with the same conflict of interest policies as school districts. The bill requires charter schools to comply with the Brown Act or the Bagley-King Open Meetings Act, whichever one applies, the Public Record Act, the Political Reform Act, and specifies that members of charter school boards may not be financially interested in any decisions made by the board. The bill will provide transparency in the operations of the many charter schools that are providing quality educational options for students and renew the faith of parents that their local charter schools is acting in the best interest of students. The bill will continue the long-standing tradition that charter schools have greater autonomy than traditional public schools, but at the same time provide greater transparency to parents and to the public regarding the use of public funds. I support creative governing structures for charter schools. This bill has nothing to do with governance in our charter schools, but it has everything to do with providing similar transparency requirements as our public schools. Everyone agrees that charter schools are public schools and their governing boards have authority over public funds. Charter schools should be held to at least the same standard as school districts for conflicts of interest. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in opposition to this bill because AB 572 will hurt our schools with burdensome new requirements. Every charter school in this state will be out of compliance immediately when it becomes law. There's no way any charter school can make the massive changes that this bill requires in the short amount of time. This measure will give districts that fear competition from charter schools the excuse they're looking for to revoke charter petitions with absolute impunity. I see nothing more than an effort by the bureaucracy to stifle healthy competition from charter schools. Strong protections are already in place that we can comply with today. In the end, more red tape is not the answer. What we need is better reform, and we strongly urge your no vote.
Mr. Nestande.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in opposition to AB 572, and I believe this bill will bring us in the wrong direction for where the President has suggested that we go in, which is allowing more charter schools in our system. And I think by putting further restrictions on charter schools, we are going back on this experiment that I think we all agree has been a success. So, to the particulars of the bill, charter schools must already abide by the nonprofit conflict law. So therefore, if there are issues of conflicts, they will be brought up in accordance with the law as is done now. But once again, by imposing more of the education code, which we sought to free charter schools of, by bringing more of that code onto charter schools, we're going back on this experiment. What I'd like to do is actually allow public schools to mimic more of the charter school rules in the sense of getting rid of a lot of the education code and a lot of these bureaucratic problems that bring our schools down, and free them up, allow them to compete with the charter schools, allow everybody to do well. And I think that will ultimately bring a better education product to the state of California, which I think we all agree we need. So I appreciate the chairman's expertise as always in education, but I disagree with her, and I hope that we can learn from charter schools and actually bring down the regulation on public schools, release them of the education code, and have a better education system. Thank you.
Mr. Furutani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and members. When I was on the Los Angeles Board of Education, we passed the first 10 charter schools in the state of California. During that time, the debate was a lot more rigorous as it is today, in that people had no idea whether these schools would succeed or fail. I think the experiment has been well worth the effort and the time, because most all have succeeded, but many have failed. a lot of the failure for the charter schools that I've seen has been based upon not the issue of education, but on the issue of governance. And that's what this bill speaks to. I think basic conflict of interest laws, basic filing requirements, basic rules governing any public meeting that we all abide by are critical relative to having transparency for the government and for the public to be able to see how a local charter school operates. I don't see this as a problem at all relative to the issues at hand. The basic principle of charter school was to relieve them of the problems relative to education policy and bureaucracy, not in terms of governance. I think these governance issues that have been raised by the chair of the Education Committee are on point and critical in order to have charter schools become a full-fledged part of the public education system and a part of the process of educating our children in the public education system. I don't think they should have special rules relative to conflict of interest. It makes no sense at all. Thank you very much.
Mr. Garrick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise in opposition to AB 572. Members, under current law, most charter schools are already required to follow the corporation code that includes strong conflict of interest provisions. I think that addresses some of the concerns. They're already following strong conflict of interest provisions. I'm puzzled as to why we need to pass this bill that requires charter school employees to follow another set. That means more bureaucracy, more rules, and this is another set of conflict of interest rules than they're already abiding by. Instead of promoting good governance, AB 572 would impose heavy burdens on charter schools. Charter schools are supposed to be, from the start, different than standard public schools. Members, this bill is not so much about encouraging more transparency in charter schools, but rather undermining their freedom just because some folks see them as a threat to the traditional public schools. If you want charter schools to continue to succeed, I urge a no vote.
Mr. Pettis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I rise to support AB 572. Like so many of my colleagues, I support much of the flexibility that charter schools provide. But one area where we cannot provide flexibility is with respect to the transparency and moral standards that we have for how we conduct business in the education system. In reality, what AB 572 does is create a requirement for a statement of economic interest and making sure that board members are not self-dealing, that they not vote on items that affect members of their own family in a unique manner, but still preserves their right to engage in all other matters with respect to the operation of their charter schools. This is a key element of transparency in how we protect the educational resources of our state, and I urge an aye vote.
Thank you. Mr. Berryhill.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, members, I rise in opposition to AB 572. Our charter schools have something that is just slightly different than the normal schools, and that is the ability for parents to walk away from a school if they don't feel like it's being governed properly. I think that's a fundamental difference, and I think this is simply an unnecessary mandate on what has been a very, very successful program in educating children. I urge a no vote.
Ms. Buchanan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise to support this bill, and I do that as an 18-year school board member. I want to make something clear. This bill has nothing to do with eliminating any of the flexibility charter schools have from education code. This bill, to me, is something that's very fundamental when you're dealing with public money. When you're dealing with public money, we want transparency and we want accountability. You know, school boards have to have open public meetings and have to disclose conflicts of interest. If a school board appoints a facilities oversight committee, it has to have open public meetings. City councils have to have open public meetings and disclose conflicts. Planning commissions have to have open public meetings. I believe that the same should be held true for charter schools. You know, we're in an environment today where we're not only cutting dollars that we're going to be given to public schools, but those same cuts are going to go to charter schools as well. And the parents of those children who attend charter schools have a right to know how the decisions are being made, where the money's being spent, and if there are any conflicts. So to me, this is very fundamental to our public process and how we spend public dollars. The public has a right to know how the money's being spent and if there are any conflicts. And once again, this bill has absolutely nothing to do with adding more bureaucracy in terms of compliance with the EDUCATE or anything else. It continues to give charter schools all of that flexibility. I urge an aye vote.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of AB 572. Actually, I'm a little surprised by the opposition to this, because this proposal is fundamentally about ethics, whether or not charter schools will be held accountable for how they operate, and whether they do that ethically without conflicts of interest. The second surprise for me is that this is really more about empowering the parents of the students that attend charter schools, because it's about transparency, whether or not they have open meetings and have the same advantages that students and parents of students in other schools have. And so I'm a little surprised with the opposition. I see this as a fundamental, basic responsibility to have open government, transparent government, and a set of ethics that allows to make sure that there is not problems developing in this growing experience of charter schools. I ask for your aye vote.
Ms. Brownlee, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me just say that this bill has nothing to do with the governance of charter schools. The governing portion of charter schools has to be unique, because charter schools are about driving experiments, driving creativity, looking and learning and trying to create new models for good teaching and learning. Charter schools are good. This is simply asking that charter schools have meet the same standard in terms of conflict of interest that our public schools do. I think Mr. Garrick talked about, well, charter schools already abide by a conflict of interest standard. Well, they do. They do provide a conflict of interest, or have to adhere to a conflict of interest that deals with for-profit companies. And for-profit companies, when you talk about conflict of interest, 49% of the board in a for-profit entity can have a conflict of interest. And so we're asking that we just have board members ruling charter schools that don't have a conflict of interest and meet open meeting laws. That's all we're asking here in this bill. This is a very simple bill. I believe that most charter schools in the state of California are operating ethically and doing a very fine job. But we know that there are a few charter schools in the state of California that are not acting in an ethical way and that do have a conflict of interest and are spending money that are not for the good of the children of California. So with that, I respectfully ask this body for an aye vote on this important measure. Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no further debate on the issue, clerk will open the roll. All those who desire to vote. All vote. All those voters desire to vote. All those voters desire to vote. All those voters desire to vote. Clerk, close the roll. Tally the, strike that. Ms. Brownlee moves the call. Members will now move to file item 99, AB 330. Ms. Saldana, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 330 by Assemblymember Saldana, an act relating to elections.
Ms. Saldana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 330 simply increases transparency. It encourages public participation in the elections process. It requires that a county election official provide at least a 5-day public notice of the time and place that votes will be tabulated. This involves the preparation and operation of vote tabulating devices and their programming and testing. The bill has received unanimous bipartisan support in the Elections and Appropriations Committees. It is sponsored by Secretary of State Deborah Bowen. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no debate or discussion, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 59, noes 0. Measure passes. We'll move to file item 107, AB 571. Ms. Saldana, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 571 by Assemblymember Saldana, an act relating to commercial fishing and making appropriation therefore.
Ms. Saldana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, there are many fisheries industries off the California coast that need our protection, that provide tremendous wealth and resources to the citizens of California. One of the most important is our lobster fisheries. And today I am introducing a bill that will establish a new funding mechanism for the California lobster fishermen to pay for programs to improve lobster management and protect this resource for future generations. I was approached to carry this bill by members of the lobster fishing organizations. They are a trade group, and they are offering to pay for this themselves because they recognize in order for these jobs to continue into the future, they want to invest today in better research, better management to ensure that these stocks will continue. The additional money that they have offered to pay will be deposited in a lobster management enhancement account under the Ocean Protection Council. With this account, the money can be leveraged to bring in even more funds and support the California spiny lobster fishery industry and the people that work in that industry. This bill is sponsored by the commercial lobster fishermen. These are the same groups that approached me, that asked for my support, that want to pay for this investment in the future of their industry. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate on the issue, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Ms. Saldana moves the call. Did we have 41? Very good. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 41, noes 17. Measure passes. We'll now move to file item 108, AB 390. Ms. Saldana, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 930 by Assemblymember Saldana, an act relating to state government.
Ms. Saldana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 930 comes from a recommendation from the State Auditor's Office. It's a government efficiency measure. It will ensure that state funds and procurement programs and contracts are used wisely. It clarifies in statute that the regulations in both the State Administrative Manual and the State Contracting Manual have the full force of state law. It's a simple efficiency measure. It will ensure state funds are being used to their best intent in the face of our budgetary constraints. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing here no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 61, no 0. Measure passes. We'll now move to file item 117, AB 828. Mr. Liu, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 828 by Assemblymember Liu and others, an act relating to building standards.
Mr. Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 828 establishes a comprehensive process for developing statewide green building standards that incorporate expertise from state agencies responsible for protecting California's public health and environment. This bill ensures that the California Energy Commission has authority to adopt energy efficient standards, whether voluntary or mandatory, and that these standards are recognized as green building standards. The California Building Standards Commission is currently developing green building standards, and although the Commission has made a good effort in developing an initial set of voluntary standards, clarity and authority are required to ensure that the many other expert state agencies are involved and that their recommendations are considered. The bill has no opposition, and it's co-sponsored by the NRDC and Environmental Defense Fund. Respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate on the issue, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Mr. Liu moves the call. We'll now move to file item 120, AB 694. Ms. Saldana, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 694 by Assemblymember Saldana, an act relating to tidelands and submerged lands.
Ms. Saldana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is a reintroduction of a broader bill that was introduced last year. The governor did veto that bill. He asked that we tailor it and restrict it to just the district that I represent in San Diego. It has to do with state lands that are currently under use by the Department of Defense. And we have, as I said, we have narrowed this down so it no longer affects lands outside of San Diego. It clarifies an issue that resulted in a federal government lawsuit against the Port of San Diego. The federal court found that there was a loophole in the state constitution that then denied the city to recover use of those state lands after the Department of Defense has concluded their work there. Unfortunately, the Navy has presented us with some last-minute concerns. We're continuing to work with them. I ask for your support today as we continue to work on their disagreements. We are simply trying to bring into equality the way that lands in San Diego are treated compared to the way that any public trust lands are treated around the state. The Navy and the City of San Diego have a long and beneficial history. I certainly want to support our continued relationships. I just want to ensure that when the Navy has concluded their use of land in San Diego, it reverts back to public trust in the same way it does in every other area around California. So I ask for your aye vote today to continue working on this, and as I say, we are committed to continue to work with the Navy and the Department of Defense, listen to their concerns, and come up with an agreement that protects the citizens of California in their right to have this property revert back to them when the Navy's use of that land is concluded. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Ms. Saldana moves the call. Members will now move to file item 132, AB 1516. Mr. Liu, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1516 by Assemblymember Liu, an act relating to criminal procedure.
Mr. Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members. This bill ensures justice in criminal cases by restoring the prosecutor's ability to have the mental health expert examine the defendant. This was the way it was for over 35 years. The California Supreme Court held in a recent decision, however, that the passage of Proposition 115 had the unintended consequence of changing this. The court asked the legislature to fix it. That's what this bill does. This bill seeks to remedy this by amending the California Penal Code to authorize courts to order a psychiatric examination by a prosecution expert when the defendant puts their mental health in issue. Bill is sponsored by LA County District Attorneys Association. Respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing it, Mr. Hackman.
I just want to encourage everyone to support this bill. Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 57, no 0. Measure passes. Members will now move to file item 134, AB 899. Ms. Torres on amendments. Ms. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 899 with amendments by Assemblymember Torres.
Ms. Torres.
Thank you, Speaker and members. I request that these technical amendments to Assembly Bill 899 be adopted and that the bill go out to print and back on file.
Seeing and hearing no debate, we have a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Amendments are adopted, out to print, back on file. Members will now move to file item 135, AB 1422. Ms. Bass, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1422 by Assemblymember Bass, an act relating to the redevelopment.
Presented by Ms. Torres. Ms. Torres.
Thank you, Speaker. Assemblymember 1422 would give redevelopment agencies whose primary responsibility is addressing the existence of blight in their communities an additional tool. In many communities, foreclosed properties have become a source of blight, contributing to community instability and in some cases representing a threat to health and public safety to their neighbors. This bill will allow redevelopment agencies to use tax increment funds to purchase foreclosed homes or assist lenders in purchasing foreclosed homes that are vacant and sell them to buyers. Additional agencies could provide mortgage or credit counseling to prospective homeowners. Assembly Bill 1422 gives redevelopment agencies an additional option of addressing blight in the form of foreclosed and abandoned homes in their communities. It does not extend the timelines for redevelopment projects, nor does it increase the debt limit. The activities could be funded with existing resources. This bill is sponsored by the California Redevelopment Association, and it is supported by the League of Cities and the California Association of Counties. Assembly Bill 1422 is an innovative bill that makes use of existing and available sources of funding to serve the dual purpose of addressing the foreclosure crisis throughout the state and eliminating blight. On behalf of Madam Speaker, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Very well. Seeing and hearing no debate on the issue, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk close. All those voters desire to vote. Clerk will move the call. Ms. Torres moves the call. Members will move to file item 137, AB 720. Ms. Caballero, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 720 by Senator Caballero, an act relating to land use.
Ms. Caballero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 720 really is an attempt to try to give local governments flexibility for their low and moderate income housing set-aside funds to do more rehabilitation projects. Current law allows jurisdictions under certain conditions to meet up to 25% of their land obligation for housing for each income category with preserved, substantially rehabilitated, or converted multifamily units. One of the requirements for counting units within this 25% cap is that the units have received what is called committed assistance from the local jurisdiction. The definition of committed assistance requires that a city or county enter into a legally enforceable agreement during the first 2 years of the housing element planning period that obligates the available funds to provide the housing assistance necessary to make the identified units affordable. The limited time frame on top of the 25% threshold essentially is a disincentive to do rehabilitation and preservation projects. AB 720 encourages active rehabilitation and preservation, which is extremely important to jurisdictions that have little or no capacity to grow. AB 720 would also provide provisions to authorize the city or county to include weatherization and energy efficiency improvements as part of its efforts to substantially rehabilitate a project. This is a priority for the resources that are coming from the federal funds to do weatherization projects of low-income homes. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those vote desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 53, no 0. Measure passes. We'll move to file item 142, AB 1575. Mr. Price. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1575, the Committee on Government and Organization, an act relating to horse racing and making an appropriation therefore.
Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 1575 is a committee bill, a GO bill, that makes numerous technical, clarifying, and conforming changes to the Horse Racing Act. The bill also takes into consideration current practices and procedures of the California Horse Racing Board to ensure that protection of the wagering public while providing oversight for each type of horse racing conducted in California. The language contained in this bill was put forth by the California Horse Racing Board. Under current law, a person who works in the barn area or on the track must be licensed by the CHRB. A racing official is generally described as a person who has contact and or interaction with the Board of Stewards on racing matters. Since an outrider maintains close contact and takes direction from the stewards via a handheld radio each day, these individuals should be treated as an official for purposes of licensure. The bill also contains language relating to oral examinations for stewards and official veterinarians. This bill will ensure that appropriate representatives from the CHRB participate in oral examinations for specified purposes. There's no opposition. I ask for your aye vote.
Dr. Emerson.
Question of the author.
Without objection.
Is this your last bill in the Assembly? Oh, that's too bad.
Nice try.
Seeing and hearing no debate on the issue, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 52, no 0. Measure passes. We'll move to file item 143, AB 1579. Mr. Price, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1579 by the Committee on Governmental Organization, an act relating to alcoholic beverages.
Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 1575, again, is a GO bill which makes numerous technical, clarifying, and
Seeing and hearing no debate, Clerk will open.
Can I get some mic, Mr. Speaker, please?
I thought you were finished.
Not so fast.
Mr. Price, you may continue.
Thank you. This bill represents the annual GO committee bill that makes technical, clarifying, conforming, and non-controversial changes to the ABC Act. AB 1579 codifies current law by authorizing ABC to, in its discretion, issue an interim operating permit to an applicant for any license to operate during the period an application for a license at the premise is pending, subject to specified conditions applicable to all licensees or retail licensees only. Currently, when a retail license is protested, the ABC can issue an interim retail permit to be effective until the matter is settled via judicial process. Unfortunately, though the ABC cannot issue an interim permit if the application is for a non-retail license. AB 1579 would give ABC the same latitude and discretion in terms of interim operation for retail and non-retail licenses while protest matters are being considered. I ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Pettis.
Question of the author?
Without objection.
Is this your last bill, Mr. Price?
No, it is not.
Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, clerk will open. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 51, noes 0. Measure passes. 144 was passed temporarily. We'll move to file item 146, AB 287. Mr. Beal, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 287 by Assemblymember Bell and others, an act relating to developmental services.
Mr. Bell.
There we go. You got it right the second time. Mr. Speaker and members, AB 287 deals with the issue of adults and youth with developmental disabilities. Adults with developmental disabilities are among the most unemployed and underemployed members of our society. They're an important, largely untapped employment resource. Preparing for and obtaining employment are priorities for most youth and adults. AB 287 follows a state national trend in recognizing that there should be priorities for people with developmental disabilities. The bill would establish an employment first policy stating the state's priority in preparing students with developmental disabilities for employment and increasing the number of adults with developmental disabilities who are engaged in gainful employment in integrated work settings. Putting more people with developmental disabilities to work benefits everyone. It means more people will become productive tax-paying members of the community and will rely less on costly public program and services. The bill also complements other employment initiatives, including our First Lady's We Include project, which encourages businesses to hire people with developmental disabilities. This bill is a modest but significant step to increase employment opportunities for people with developmental disabilities. It will improve their lives and not incidentally save the state money. I urge and I vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Mr. Bell moves the call. Members will now go back to file item 125, AB 742. Ms. Saldana, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 742 by Assemblymember Saldana, an act relating to elections.
Mr. DeVore. Ms. Saldana, Mr. DeVore is in my ear right now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know it's a busy day. AB 742 makes the administration of removing ineligible voters more efficient. It gives election officials the information they need to remove ineligible voters. This bill is nearly identical to a committee bill last year. It has no opposition. It has received support in the committees that it has been heard. It is supported by the Secretary of State, the League of Women Voters, and it is very important for helping California fairly and efficiently manage the voting rolls. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Ms. Saldana moves the call. Members will now move to file item 147, AB 291. Ms. Saldana, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 291 by Assemblymember Saldana and others, an act relating to coastal resources.
Ms. Saldana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 291 is a way to ensure that the Coastal Commission has the means of processing permit requests in a timely way. It requires that any person or entity applying for a coastal development permit takes care of any outstanding violations before their application for a permit is processed. Now, I ask you, if you go to the DMV and you haven't taken care of an outstanding fine or a penalty, the DMV will tell you that you cannot be issued a driver's license, and they have a way to deal with that. In the same way, we're asking that when people go before the Coastal Commission and ask for a permit for a development, that they ensure that they are not getting in front of the line, in front of people who have been applying for a permit, and we have a wait list now of over 1,000 permits. We're simply asking that those who play by the rules be given the access to the permitting process that is required. The analysis from the Appropriations Committee points out that this bill may produce savings in our state funds, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars annually. So this is a cost savings measure. It's a straightforward measure. It simply aims to save state money during a very dire financial crisis. We are asking no more of people that apply for a coastal permit than we ask of people who have violated a driving law and then want to continue driving. I ask for your aye vote in supporting the Coastal Commission in serving the needs of Californians in a fair and cost-efficient way.
Ms. Harkey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise in opposition to this. Being in a coastal district and having gone through many coastal development permit application processes with a variety of projects in my city, it's an extremely onerous process, and perhaps if the Coastal Commission is having a problem processing some of their permits and they're having a backlog, they might want to reduce some of the restrictions that they have. A lot of what they do is very much different than somebody going in for a driving permit or anything else. It is arbitrary, and there's no necessary rule of law to it. So there's a lot of emotion at these hearings and a lot of emotion within the department. And so this is an unelected board. There is virtually no recourse if you have a problem, and I truly believe that some of their laws and the regulations are just excessively onerous, and I would like to see us work together as a committee, those of us in coastal cities, to help to streamline some of these things and take care of the real issues that affect us, the serious issues of the beach and the water quality and the beauty that we are all trying to preserve, and try to get beyond some of the more onerous, strictly no-growth legislation or restrictions that they place upon the communities that are serviced by them. Thank you.
Mr. Resnick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this bill. A previous speaker mentioned that there's a backlog of enforcement cases. I don't believe that's due to the onerous nature of the cases, but to the simple fact that, unlike many, many other agencies, the Coastal Commission cannot impose its own fines. It must go through the courts to get significant enforcement. That is the reason, I believe, for the backlog. In regard to the effort this bill seeks to sustain, I want to read many of the other state agencies that already have the authority that this bill would give to the Coastal Authority, the Coastal Commission, the Department of Food and Agriculture, Health Services, Motor Vehicles, Corporations, Fish and Game, Forestry and Fire Protection, Consumer Affairs, and Insurance. In all those cases, in all those agencies, you must resolve your violations before you can move on to another matter. I ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Jeffries.
Members, you just heard exactly why this shouldn't be approved. We are just empowering the staffs, the unaccounted individuals, people who are not accountable to the electorate, people who are not accountable to the public who pays the taxes. We are empowering executive directors and staff. We are not empowering an elected body. Members, the people of California are disgusted with the way this state is operating. We have agencies up and down the state who have the power to shut down businesses, shut down development, shut down jobs, and all this bill does is to enhance that ability. I encourage a no vote.
Mr. Chesbro.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, members, I rise in support of this bill. We have had a Coastal Commission in place for decades in this state that have continued to keep us the golden state that people from all over the world want to come to visit. It's a critical element in who we are, and we must continue to protect our coastal resources. I do want to say that, like some of the opponents who've gotten up, I have from time to time seen some excess or the Coastal Act taken to places where perhaps it didn't need to go. And I'm happy to say I asked the author to take an amendment to make sure that these tools were not used for the smallest minor violations, and she willingly took that amendment, I think thus helping to address whatever concerns there may be about the California Coastal Commission. So I would ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Adams.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. Members, I rise in opposition to this measure for many of the reasons stated by my colleagues. It is true that the Coastal Commission has done amazing work to try to preserve our coastline and continue to make California a place that is desirable to visit and to spend time in. But let's make no mistake about what the effect of this bill would have, and that is to empower staff. Not appointed members, not elected officials, but staff to make determinative decisions that will ultimately affect the ability for somebody to move forward in any kind of development proceeding. Members, staff should not be given such broad discretion. It should have to always be made at the highest possible level and at a level that gives people the opportunity to have some modicum of due process and ensure that the people who come before the Coastal Commission have an opportunity to have their grievances heard and to have some modicum of redress as well. Members, empowering staff in this way does nothing more than to institutionalize a bad practice in a way that further erodes people's confidence that the Coastal Commission's efforts are truly ignoble. I ask for your no vote.
Ms. Saldana, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, those who would say that we are somehow denying the will of the people, the Coastal Commission was created by a vote of the people. The people of California made it abundantly clear they supported the creation of the Coastal Commission. They supported the protection of our coastal resources. And if we were to go and have an administrative hearing or a legal review of every violation, then where does it stop? Do we do that with other agencies that currently have the ability to enforce the law? Do we tie up the government in state court? Do we raise the fees and the costs for people who simply want a clean beach to go to? The people voted for this. The people expect the administrative staff to look out for their interests. That's why they overwhelmingly approved the Coastal Act decades ago. So by saying that you do not give them the right to enforce this, you are in fact turning your back on the voters of California. They said protect the coast. They said hold hearings. They asked for the opportunity for their children and grandchildren on into the future to enjoy the same types of beaches and coastlines that those of us in this room are now able to enjoy. And I promise you that those coastlines would look very different today if the Coastal Commission had not been put in place. The restrictions are the result, again, of what voters said they wanted to see. And if we were to go, again, to make the analogy of other administrative offices, if we were to tell the Department of Motor Vehicles, give this person a license just because they didn't pay that fine, just because they're a serial speeder, just because they operate their cars in a way that we believe is reckless and dangerous and could be harmful to the people of California, if we told the administrative staff, you don't have the power to withhold that license, if they come in and ask for a license, give it to them anyway, even if they're bad actors when they're operating their vehicles, I think that people would be outraged. And I think people are outraged today to think that we will let people clog up the application system. And it is clogged up, not because of inefficiency, but because the staff is doing their best under a very difficult situation to protect the coastal resources that have made this state one of the leaders in the world in our economy. So I ask for your aye vote today. I ask that you give the Coastal Commission a tool to manage how they deal with the permitting process. Without that, someone who wants to simply put up a small structure will find themselves in line behind somebody who wants to build a massive structure and has violated the Coastal Act on that same parcel of land in a previous development process. It's not fair. It goes against the voters who said very clearly, we want our coastal resources protected. We are willing to set up this structure and have people manage that on our behalf. I ask that you uphold the vote of the people from so long ago. We're an institution. We continue to exist well beyond the times those of us in this room are sitting in these chairs. I ask you to make the Coastal Commission accountable to the people the way that it was intended when they voted for that ballot measure so long ago. I ask for your aye vote today.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Ms. Saldana moves the call. Members will now go back to file item 116, AB 501, Mr. Emerson, on amendments. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 501 with amendments by Assemblymember Emerson.
Mr. Emerson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. These amendments are technical, which will allow a physician who is in a training program in California to use his professional degrees. I ask for your aye vote and for this to go out to print back on file.
Seeing no debate, this will require a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. File item 149, pass and retain. Members will now move to file item 154, AB 1069. Mr. Monning, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1069 by Assemblymember Monning, an act relating to plant pests.
Mr. Monning.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 1069 is a bill intended to restore the public's confidence and trust in state agencies when a decision is made requiring a pest eradication effort to occur. In 2008, former Assemblymember John Laird authored legislation that was chaptered into law outlining requirements of the Department of Food and Ag once a determination is made that a pest eradication effort will be performed. Among these requirements includes the specification for establishing a telephone hotline. AB 1069 is a measure to clarify and expound on the language included in Mr. Laird's bill. Specifically, AB 1069 requires CDFA to make the telephone hotline number toll-free and staffed by public health personnel who are familiar with the pesticide being applied. Additionally, this bill requires for all reported adverse health complaints to be entered into a database. Finally, AB 1069 requires that the toll-free hotline number be included on the notices sent out to the public prior to the pest eradication, as well as its intention to be used for reporting adverse health consequences. There is no opposition on file to this bill. Members, I request your aye vote.
Mr. Berryhill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I'm rising in opposition to this bill, not because we don't want to inform the public, but currently we've got a system right now that works pretty well. And I think when you talk about the cost of implementing this program after what's just happened with all the stuff that's happened in the state of California, I think this is just simply unnecessary, and I recommend a no vote.
Mr. Monning, you may close.
Thank you. I just comment in response to that. There was no recognition of additional cost to the state other than adapting this program to more specific application. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Mr. Money moves the call. Mr. Tirico.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If we could return to most resolutions, please. I hereby request unanimous consent to allow Assemblymember Furutani to have a very special guest at his desk during session today.
Without objection. Members will now move to file item 155, AB 1070. Mr. Hill, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1070 by Assemblymember Hill, an act relating to healing arts.
Mr. Hill.
Speaker and members, AB 1070 seeks to ensure that the Medical Board of California continue protecting healthcare consumers in our state by enacting technical changes to existing programs that will help the board enforce proper reporting, licensing, and regulating of physicians and surgeons. AB 1070 highlights the importance of required reporting for public protection and clarifies reporting requirements. It also allows the board president to sit on a disciplinary panel when the board doesn't have a complement of members to expedite the decision-making process and reduce the workload for members who are forced to sit on more than one panel. The bill also requires that all medical records requested by the board be certified to expedite the investigation process if a complaint goes to investigation. AB 1070 also defines certified records and puts a cap on the penalty that can be assessed against a physician for noncompliance. Lastly, the bill specifies certain information that is collected from applicants and licensees upon initial licensure and renewal of a license. We have worked very hard with a broad range of stakeholders and have taken a number of amendments to address their concerns. AB 1070 is sponsored by the Medical Board of California, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those vote desire to vote. 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 Mr. Hill moves the call. File item 156 passed temporarily. Move to file item 157, AB 1169. Mr. Ruskin, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1169 by Senator Ruskin, an act relating to continuing care contracts.
Mr. Ruskin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill will help protect seniors who live in continuing care retirement communities known as CCRCs. It will establish transparency in how providers account for and use the significant entry charges and monthly fees paid by seniors. These charges paid by seniors are paid in exchange for a promise of lifelong residency and care. That's why fiscal transparency by the CCRCs is so important to the seniors. They place their trust and money in these communities. AB 1169 requires CCRCs to designate all assets in excess of liabilities as reserves and fully explain the type, amount, and purpose of these reserves. The bill also restricts the use of the seniors' investment in the CCRCs to activities that benefit the senior residents or the community as dictated by the federal nonprofit status. This bill is sponsored by the California Continuing Care Residents Association and the California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform. It has the support of major senior groups such as AARP and the California Alliance for Retired Americans. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those vote desire to vote. 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 Mr. Ruskin moves the call. File item 158, pass and retain. File item 159, pass and retain. Pass temporarily, rather. Correction, 159, pass temporarily. 158, pass and retain. 160, Mr. AB 1271, pass temporarily. File item 161, AB 1319, Mr. Krikorian, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1319 with amendments by Assemblymember Krikorian.
Mr. Krikorian.
Mr. Speaker, there are two amendments before us today. The First Amendment is technical in nature, and the Second Amendment corrects an important drafting error that was inadvertently left out of the last set of amendments that were done in committee. I respectfully ask for an aye vote on the amendments.
Mr. Hagman.
I respectfully ask for a roll call vote on this.
Erect it. Clerk will open the roll on the amendments. Members, this is on the amendments. Okay. So on the amendments, members, clerk will close the roll. Amendments are adopted. Out to print, back on file. Members, please welcome Joey Fruitani, the son of Member Fruitani, to the floor. Please welcome him, sitting at his desk. Welcome to the chambers, Mr. Fruitani. Fruitani Jr. is obviously in training. Welcome to the floor, sir. Members will now move to file item 162, AB 1326. Mr. Huffman, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1326 by Assemblymember Huffman, an act relating to elections.
Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Every major election, county election officials encounter a surprisingly high number of incidents where voters have registered to vote with a third party, such as a petition, circulator, or a partisan voter registration drive, and yet somehow the voter finds that their registration paperwork never made it to the county elections office and they have been disenfranchised. Now, when this happens through registration at the Department of Motor Vehicles, the law provides a remedy. Either the county election official or the voter can go to court to compel registration, but current law does not provide a remedy when that registration happens through a third party. This bill simply extends the same rights and remedies to voter registration through a third party as exists under current law when you register through the DMV. There are no costs to the state, and there is no opposition. I respectfully request an aye vote.
Mr. Adams.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I must regretfully rise in opposition. I understand the author's intent, and I do believe the bill has merit in that one regard, and that we do want to ensure that a voter who does, in fact, legitimately give their card to a third party and does not subsequently get registered to vote doesn't become disenfranchised. The fundamental concern that I have, though, is that with those claiming to do so and it being less than honest. it is distinctly possible that the claim can be made that a voter registration was handed to a third party and no such claim or no such action transpired. Furthermore, it does become somewhat alarming that this sets up a quandary and that in which the courts will ultimately have to decide the matter on nothing more than a person's word with no substantive evidence or proof to the contrary. I think this measure does have merit, but I do think it also warrants consideration and concern, and for those reasons I must urge a no vote.
Mr. Huffman, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the remarks from the opposition. However, I don't think we should err on the side of disenfranchising someone who rightfully registered to vote and was denied that franchise by a third party. There is a remedy in the situation where anyone goes to court and perjures themselves. I think that's the safeguard, and I respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Mr. Huffman moves the call. File item 163 passed temporarily. Members will move to file item 164, AB 1368. Mr. Adams. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1368 by Assemblymember Adams, an act relating to child daycare.
Mr. Adams.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This bill, AB 1368, is unique in that I'm a Republican, and this is a nanny bill. The difference is this is actually concerning nannies and small child care facilities. Members, I have to tell you, the impetus for this bill was unfortunately a very tragic incident that occurred in my district where a child was left in the care of a daycare center that had 7 or fewer children in it. Under those requirements, there is no requirement under law that a person be in the home that has CPR training or has the ability to aid and provide first aid care to a child. As it turns out, the daycare licensee who left the home in the care of her mother did so at the risk of a child who ended up ultimately dying, who became ill and needed emergency medical care. Members, this bill seeks to do nothing more than to require small care facilities, meaning 7 or fewer children, to also always have on site somebody who is CPR trained and first aid trained in the event that a child should need emergency care. Members, with that, I urge your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 51, no 0. Measure passes. File item 165 passed temporarily. Members will move to file item 166, AB 1437. Mr. Huffman, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1437 by Assemblymember Huffman and others, an act relating to public health.
Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last November, California voters overwhelmingly approved Proposition 2, which established minimum animal welfare and human safety standards for egg-laying hens. This bill will ensure that all eggs sold in California comply with those minimal animal welfare and safety standards. The intent is to protect consumers from the deleterious health, safety, and welfare effects of the sale and consumption of eggs derived from egg-laying hens that are exposed to significant stress and may, as a result, be exposed to diseases, pathogens, including salmonella, according to the science. AB 1437 is separate and distinct from Prop 2, but this bill will require that all shelled eggs sold in California after January 1st, 2015 be in compliance with the basic standards enacted in Prop 2. The bill passed out of the Assembly Agriculture Committee unanimously. I want to thank my co-authors, Assemblymember Galgiani and Assemblymember Berryhill. There is no opposition, and I respectfully request your aye vote.
Mr. Berryhill.
Yes, I am a co-author of this bill. I do rise in support. And, you know, I don't think it's too much. Not only has Mr. Huffman worked closely with everybody to get them to come together on this bill, but I think that with Prop 2 this last year, I think the American or the California voters have said that they want their eggs a certain way and under certain circumstances and conditions. And so, with that, without further ado, I will ask for an aye vote.
Clerk will open the roll. Oh, all those voters desire to vote. All those voters desire to vote. All those voters desire to vote. Thank you, Mr. Huffman, for your close. All those voters desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 49, noes 9, measure passes. File item 167 passed temporarily. File item 168 passed temporarily. We'll move to file item 169, AB 710. Ms. Yamada, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 710 by Assembly Member Yamada, an act relating to military and veterans.
Ms. Yamada.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. As we've all returned from a long Memorial Day weekend where many of us have paid tribute to the fallen, AB 710 seeks to do something for those who are still alive and those who are returning from the global war on terrorism. Members, AB 710, which has enjoyed strong bipartisan support, simply requires the California Department of Veterans Affairs to seek all available funding from the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration for the provision of mental health services to our returning veterans. Both anecdotal and actual evidence show that this group of returning combat warriors have faced some of the most difficult times in military history in our country and are going to require tremendous services and unique services in order to prepare for life back at home. Members, I seek your aye vote on this important measure. I do want to point out that during our committee discussions before the Veterans Committee, that a special classification of women veterans who for the first time have seen combat are coming back in very high percentages suffering from what is called MST, or military sexual trauma, which leads to additional stresses in their lives as they return. So that is my bill, AB 710. I request your support. Thank you.
Ms. Salas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of this bill and thank Ms. Yamada for seeking funding for our veterans from the federal government. While the VA system should be responsible for the care of our veterans, we all know that they are so overwhelmed with a backload of cases that many times our veterans are not served. And additionally, there's an assumption that all veterans are eligible for VA benefits when many are not. So this is a very necessary measure, and I respectfully support Ms. Yamada's effort and encourage everyone to support this.
Ms. Yamada.
Thank you. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 60, noes 0. Measure passes. Now we'll move to file item 170, AB 730. Mr. Delatorre, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 730 by Assemblymember Delatorre, an act relating to health insurance.
Mr. Delatorre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 730 will allow the insurance commissioner to increase civil penalties for health insurers who unlawfully engage in post-claims underwriting. Specifically, AB 730 would require a health insurer that unlawfully engages in this practice to be liable to the state for a civil penalty fixed by the insurance commissioner in an amount not to exceed $5,000. If the insurer knew that the act of post-claims underwriting was unlawful, the civil penalty shall be fixed by the commissioner in an amount not to exceed $10,000. Under current law, DMHC has jurisdiction to place unlimited administrative fines on health plans for these acts and civil penalties up to $2,500 per violation. However, the commissioner has jurisdiction to fine only $118 per violation. Clearly, there's a discrepancy here. This bill seeks to remedy that. I urge your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Mr. Delatorre moves the call. Members will now move to file item 171, AB 734. Mr. Hill, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 734 by Assemblymember Hill, an act relating to horse racing.
Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 734 authorizes the Secretary of Food and Agriculture to make money in the Enclosure Facilities Improvement Fund available to go towards maintaining operations at fair satellite wagering facilities throughout the state. Fair satellites play a critical role in the state's racing industry. 27 sites are operated on fairgrounds. Several factors have led to a decline in the industry. 5 satellites are currently deciding whether to reduce operations or shut down completely. This bill provides the flexibility necessary to keep these facilities in operation. This is supported by fairs around the state. There's no opposition, and I respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll. Tally the votes. Ayes 55, no 0. Measure passes. File item 172, passed temporarily. File item 173, passed temporarily. We'll move to file item 174, AB 811. Mr. Pettis, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 811 by Assemblymember John A. Perez, an act relating to identification documents.
Mr. Pettis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Request permission to use a prop during my presentation.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, members, AB 811 prohibits check cashers from selling any form of identification other than an optional identification card that is intended to access check cashing services. It further prohibits check cashers from misrepresenting any form of identification it could legally sell. Many of you have seen photocopies that I've passed around of the identification cards that are being sold in my district and another part of the states that clearly are an attempt to create a copy of a California state identification card. Additionally, this bill increases the penalty for distributing or selling fraudulent California identification cards by including imprisonment in a county jail for up to 1 year. Existing law on this issue falls short of preventing some check cashers from preying on vulnerable populations such as recent immigrants and limited English proficient communities and coercing them into purchasing these IDs. AB 811 removes any ambiguity in state law by clarifying that a check casher is prohibited from selling any identification card except for optional identification cards that are expressly intended to access check cashing services. It also provides a more appropriate punishment for selling fake IDs. I respectfully ask for an aye vote on this important consumer protection bill.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close roll, tally the votes. Ayes 59, no 0. Measure passes. File item 175 passed temporarily. Move to file item 176, AB 882. Ms. Fuller. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 882 by Assemblymember Fuller, an act relating to highways.
Ms. Fuller.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to present Assembly Bill 882. Unfortunately, the inspiration for this legislation was several fatal accidents along a stretch of Highway 119 in my district, most of them young people. This legislation addresses the emotional topic of roadside memorials. AB 882 is modeled after the very successful roadside memorial sign program for victims of drunk drivers. This bill allows family and friends of fatal car accident victims to purchase at their own cost memorial signs overseen by Caltrans near the site of the deadly crash. Signs will be designated to read, "Please drive safely," in memoriam of victim's name, and the installation will be limited to 20 signs per year. My goal is to allow a legal alternative to the makeshift memorials and decrease the incidence of conflict between Caltrans workers tasked with removing roadside memorials and the families that have erected them in memory of their loved ones. This program is of no cost to the state and has received bipartisan support in both the Transportation and Appropriations Committees. In closing, I want to remind you that all costs are covered by the requesting party.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 59, ayes 60, noes 0. Measure passes. File item 177, pass and retain. File item 178, pass temporarily. We'll move to file item 179, AB 926. Mr. Ruskin, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 926 by Assemblymember Ruskin and others, an act relating to public contracts.
Mr. Ruskin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill adds one sentence to state contracts. The additional sentence tells contractors that they must obey the loss leader law. The loss leader law prohibits sales below cost with the intent of injuring competitors or destroying competition. This bill is sponsored by the California Small Business Association and the California Black Chamber of Commerce, who've been working with me for over a year to improve the way California works with small businesses. We believe by bringing more attention to the loss leader law, we can protect the ability of small businesses in the state to be legitimately competitive with large businesses. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 60, no 0. Measure passes. We'll move to file item 180, AB 943. Mr. Mendoza, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 943 by Assemblymember Mendoza, an act relating to employment.
Mr. Mendoza.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm here to present AB 943, which will ban the use of pre-employment consumer credit reports. The credit reporting industry argues that credit reports help employers determine the most qualified applicants for the job. However, there are many other ways to screen applicants, and research shows that credit history does not predict job performances. Employers do not need to access applicants' personal financial information in order to evaluate their work ethic and trustworthiness. We could all agree that Bernie Madoff, who engineered one of the most sophisticated Ponzi schemes of our time, I'm sure he had good credit, and I'm sure a pre-employment credit check would not have predicted what he did. Furthermore, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has expressed concern that the use of credit reports in employment may have a disproportionate impact against applicants of color, also discriminate against low-income earners and women, particularly women who have been divorced. Members, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Mr. Mendoza moves the call. Members will now move to file item 181, AB 958. Mr. Ng, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 958 by Assemblymember Ng, an act relating to public contracts.
Mr. Ng.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and speakers, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 958 will authorize the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California to use the design-build contracting process for the installation of solar energy systems so the district can take advantage of the California Solar Initiative to further green its water delivery systems, and in so doing inject $170 million in capital projects into the local economy. This bill is narrowly tailored and is consistent with existing design-build processes. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Mr. Ng moves the call. Members will now move to file item 182, AB 975. Mr. Fong, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 975 by Assemblymember Fong, an act relating to water corporations.
Mr. Fong.
Mr. Speaker and members, AB 975 will facilitate the use of water meters by providing more flexibility to the California Public Utilities Commission, PUC. In the climate of today's water crisis, it's crucial that we take advantage of every opportunity to conserve. However, the Commission is restricted in its ability to encourage water conservation through the use of meters due to stringent requirements in current law. AB 975 will eliminate these requirements and instead require water meters for utilities with more than 500 service connections. This bill merely brings water corporations regulated by PUC up to date with the requirements of other water utilities. Current law is outdated and does not reflect the vital need of our state to conserve water. AB 975 is sponsored by the Sierra Club, has no opposition, and has received bipartisan support. I respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Mr. Fong moves the call. Members will move to file item 183, AB 992. Mr. Liu, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 992 by Assemblymember Liu, an act relating to unfair business practices.
Mr. Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This bill strengthens California law relative to property tax reassessment solicitations. Property values have dropped significantly in the past few years. Against this backdrop, a series of scams have arisen where private companies contact homeowners and offer to help them lower their property tax bill. The fact is that this same service is free from the local assessor's office. There's no need for anyone to pay an upfront fee to facilitate a property tax reduction. The California Attorney General has issued a consumer alert for homeowners regarding this scam, and county assessors are being inundated with questions and concerns from property owners who have received misleading mailers. AB 992 prohibits the collection of advance or late fees, closes loopholes in current law, and requires a written authorization from the property owner must be provided before a reassessment request is filed. The bill is sponsored by the LA County District Attorney's Office. There's no opposition. Respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those who desire to vote. All those voters who desire to vote. All those voters desire to vote. All those voters desire to vote. All those voters desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 50, noes 7. Measure passes. Members will now move to file item 184, AB 68. Mr. Davis, clerk will read.
Assembly concur in Resolution 68 by Assemblymember Davis relative to Public Service Recognition Week.
Mr. Davis.
Mr. Speaker and members of the State Assembly, ACR 68 seeks to declare the month of May as Public Service Recognition Month in concert with the American Society of Public Administration's designation as May as Public Service Week. And whereas the contributions of the many employees in this state have strengthened our belief that public service is in fact, a noble profession, and that the professionalism and expertise demonstrated by the public employees of this state in carrying out a wide variety of services have helped build a strong foundation for our government, and whereas the employees have served the people of California well, even in these difficult budget times, be it resolved that the Assembly and the Senate thereof concurring, the entire legislature declares the month of May 2009 as Public Service Recognition Month. Of the 418,000 individuals of the state of California who are employed, 200,000 of which are of whom are state and general employees, 2,000 who are employees of the state legislature in both houses, 170,000 of whom are University of California system employees, and 46,000 of whom are California State's University system employees. And Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask for members who'd like to join into this resolution to be allowed so on the first vote.
Very well. Members, this is for co-authors. This is for co-authors. Clerk will open the roll for co-authors. This is for co-authors, members.
Yeah, I did. I did Assembly and Senate.
This is for co-authors.
Oh, wow.
Clerk will close the roll. 48 co-authors. Then members on the resolution, this will be a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted. Members will now move to file item 186, AB 1281, Mr. Portantino. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1281 by Assemblymember Portantino, an act relating to people data.
Mr. Portantino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. The practice of excluding certain races and ethnicities from data collection directly or indirectly is a large problem in this country and in this state. As lawmakers, we need to know that reports we receive about California students in K-12 and higher education are accurate, and also it is important to be inclusive. When we exclude multiracial children from data collection directly or indirectly, we are telling them that they do not count. California has the largest and fastest growing multiracial population in America. The hope is that we will see clear to recognize these important constituency and validate their presence in our state and in our schools. AB 1281 is a work-in-progress legislation that is sponsored by the Project RACE and supported by the California Teachers Association, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 52, noes 5. Measure passes. We'll now move to file item 187, AB 988. Ms. Brownlee, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 988 by Assemblymember Brownlee, an act relating to human trafficking.
Ms. Brownlee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Due to the underground nature of human trafficking, law enforcement has a hard time finding traffickers and bringing them to justice. In response to that difficulty, Congress created the U visas, which are designed to provide immigration status to non-citizens that are assisting or are willing to assist authorities in the investigation of crimes. AB 988 will require the Commission on Peace Officers Standards and Trainings, commonly referred to as POST, to create and make available a training module on U visas. AB 988 is an essential measure that will train law enforcement on how to assist and aid human trafficking victims on how to obtain a U visa. AB 988 will save lives and bolster law enforcement's ability to investigate and prosecute human trafficking crimes. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Smythe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I, too, rise in support of this measure, and I know that there are concerns about the fiscal impact of something, legislation like this, but I must tell you the impact of human trafficking and what that does for the state. And you may not realize
how prevalent that really does exist here in California in the 21st century, and it comes from people who are brought to this country under false pretenses. The lucky ones, I always say, the lucky ones of human trafficking are forced into indentured servitude, basically. The unlucky ones are forced into sexual slavery. Their passports are taken, their families are threatened, and if we don't give law enforcement all the tools necessary to bring this practice to an end, I don't know why we would be here in this legislature, because this is something that we don't know as much about or should know more about. But it's happening right here in California, and I know that there are fiscal concerns, but a crisis like human trafficking is something that I believe warrants a response, and that's why I stand in support and ask for your aye vote.
Ms. Brownlee.
I just want to thank Mr. Smythe for his support of the bill, and I think he had the most appropriate close, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 59, noes 9. Measure passes. Members, if we can direct your attention to the rear of the chambers, Mrs. Torres would like to welcome Mr. Tim Brown. Mr. Tim Brown is a Heisman Trophy winner from Notre Dame and retired Oakland Raider who is a spokesman for 911 for Kids. Tuesday, May 26 is California 911 Heroes and Dispatchers Day. Brown will be joined today by Ms. Dejana Wright and 911 dispatchers Julie Ricks, Malloy Torres, Jennifer Waldrop, who are all local heroes, Medal of Honor winners, and Elsie Kim, the director of 911 for Kids. Please help us welcome our guest in the rear of the chambers. Welcome. Welcome to the chambers. Members will now move to file item 188, AB 1025. Ms. Conway, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1025 by Assemblymember Conway, an act relating to school employees and volunteers.
Ms. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 1025 will fix a loophole in current law that allows convicted drug dealers, violent crime felons, and people convicted of sex crimes to volunteer as coaches on our school campuses. AB 1025 will create an activity supervisor clearance certificate that every volunteer coach will be required to get before working with our school children. This certificate, provided by the Commission on Teachers Credentialing, CTC, will verify to the school district that the coach has not been convicted of a drug-related felony, sex crime, or violent felony. This is the same process teachers go through when they get their credentials, and the same process other states use to ensure they are not putting children in harm's way. While working on this bill, I wanted to make sure the bill was not only protected children, but was fair to the coaches. We've all seen it happen when people have made mistakes in their past and turned their lives around and are now acting as positive role models in their communities, and we want their participation. That's why this is not an absolute ban. There is an appeal process whereby a person convicted of one of these crimes could take their case to the CTC as to why they should receive a certificate. This bill is supported by the Crime Victims United, the State PTA, and the San Bernardino Sheriff County Sheriff's Department. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 64, noes 0. 189 passed temporarily. Members will now move to file item 190, AB 1152. Anderson, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1152 by Assemblymember Anderson, an act relating to professional corporations.
Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, Assembly Bill 1152 clarifies the code to include physical therapists in the long list of professionals that can partner in medical corporations. The bill passed out of committee unanimously, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those vote desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 63, no 0. Measure passes. Members will now move to file item 192, AB 853. Mr. Arambula. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 853 by Assemblymember Arambula, an act relating to local government.
Mr. Arambula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, imagine that you live in an unincorporated community where there is inadequate drinking water, inadequate wastewater, where there are no sidewalks, there is no drainage, where there are no street lights, or where there are other serious health hazards. Now further imagine that you are in a disadvantaged community that is next to or surrounded by an incorporated city. What this bill does is this measure establishes a process for the annexation of disadvantaged communities with serious infrastructure deficiencies into the city that they are surrounded by or border. Current state law encourages the orderly growth and land use, and this bill furthers that purpose as well by establishing a process to bring basic municipal services to those communities that most desperately need them. Throughout the San Joaquin Valley and other parts of the state, there are small communities that have been allowed to spring up, and as cities have grown, the cities have in some cases simply passed over and around these communities. These are areas with a severe lack of essential services, which can include poor water service to the point where you can't drink the water, you can't bathe in the water, inadequate sewer systems, no street lights for children and others to walk at night, no sidewalks, so if your child or grandchild or niece or nephew is walking to school, there are no sidewalks and there is no drainage, so children have to literally walk in the middle of the road and risk serious injury from traffic, or other deficiencies that quite honestly are just not acceptable in this day and age. As a county supervisor and a member of LAFCO for 6 years, our board tried to deal with these problems in these communities one at a time. But the problems are so widespread and systemic that they require a more comprehensive approach. This bill moves toward that systemic approach to this persistent issue, and I would respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Jones.
Members, I rise in support of this common sense measure. This is not just a problem in rural communities throughout the state. It's a problem as well in urban communities like here in Sacramento County, where as a result of incorporation by a number of communities, we have these islands of unincorporated areas, many of whom are not being adequately served. We have what we call here in this county uncities, areas where unfortunately there isn't sufficient attention being paid to the delivery of municipal services and infrastructure. This measure would simply allow those areas to have an opportunity, after significant review by all the stakeholders, to annex into an area where they can receive the services they desperately need. I ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to this bill. You are going to allow this to happen without protest, with only 25% of the registered voters. Members, when you annex a piece of property into a city, you are taking a difference from a county to a city. Typically, cities run differently than counties. So you have to bring it up to city code during a period when we're in a recession, and cities are going to struggle over the next 2 years to just get by we are going to say that 25% of the registered voters will allow an annex of a piece of property that now the city will have to bring up to city code. We'll have to do everything to make that look like that's part of their city. I ask for your no vote.
Mr. Arambula, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to address the opposition because of a small error which will be corrected on the Senate side. Folks, you have my word that this will be addressed. The protest hearing, if there is one, will result in a vote of the residents, and a majority will determine the outcome of the annexation process as is currently the law. So with that understanding, I would once again respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, clerk will open the roll. All those vote who desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close roll. Tally votes. Ayes 41, noes 22. Measure passes. Mr. Tirico.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If we could return to motions and resolutions, please. I'd like to introduce and request unanimous consent to allow Mei Li Wong, the older daughter of Ms. Yamada, to join us on the floor with Ms. Yamada this afternoon. Graduate student in political management from George Washington University in Washington, D.C.
Without objection. Welcome to the chambers. Members will now move to file item 193, ACR 64. Ms. Ma, clerk will read.
Assembly concurrent resolution 64 by Assemblymember Ma and others relative to Hepatitis B Awareness Month.
Ms. Ma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, ACR 64 declares May 2009 as Hepatitis B Awareness Month in California. 400 million people in the world are living with chronic hepatitis B. Approximately 1.4 million Americans are infected with chronic hepatitis B. And out of that 1.4 million, almost half are Asian Pacific Islanders. I am one of them. I contracted hepatitis B at birth. I am one of the lucky ones because I don't have any symptoms. However, 1 out of 4 people like me will develop serious liver damage or liver cancer in our lifetime. If you do not have hepatitis B, you can get 3 vaccinations and never have hepatitis B. And that's the message that we're trying to deliver. We have started a Hep B free campaign in the Bay Area where we've tested thousands of San Franciscans, provided vaccinations and treatment information, and formed a network of groups committed to ending hepatitis B. Thank you, members, for your support.
Cool. Members, we will open the roll for co-authors. We'll open the roll for co-authors. Clerk, open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors. It's for co-authors, members. Clerk will close the roll. We have 65 co-authors. Now we have a voice vote on the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Resolution is adopted. File item 196 passed temporarily. File item 197 passed and retained. File item 198 passed temporarily. File item 199 passed and retained. File item 200, AB 824, Ms. Harkey, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 824 by Assemblymember Harkey, an act relating to taxation.
Ms. Harkey.
Be nice. Thank you, Speaker and fellow members. AB 824 is a common sense measure that will allow the clerk of the board to use a neighboring county's assessment appeals board in the event of a conflict of interest. The sponsor of this legislation, the California Association of Clerks and Election Officials, anticipate an increase in conflicts of interest cases due to the recent decline in housing values throughout the state. As we know, when housing values decline dramatically, homeowners apply for reassessment on their property taxes. Our assessment appeal boards in the urban suburban counties are experiencing caseloads increasing by the thousands. Therefore, it is likely to expect conflicts cases may also increase. Current law requires the clerk to assemble a special alternate assessment appeals board through a judge of the Superior Court when there is a conflict of interest. And right now, in years past, this seldom applied. But conflicts of interest are assumed for board members, assessment hearing offices, the clerk of the board and their staff, as well as in addition with this bill, we are adding county council and their staff. The current process is time-consuming and not efficient for taxpayers or counties. Using another county's assessment board to avoid conflicts of interest will help enhance the likelihood of a sound decision on the matter before the board. The bill has no impact on the state general fund and passed out of Appropriations and Revenue and Taxation Committee unanimously. And I respectfully ask for your aye vote and the Norma Torres treatment, Mr. Duvall.
Mr. Duvall, for what purpose do you wish to be recognized?
Mr. Speaker and members, do you have any idea what she just said? Could you tell us in a quicker version what you're trying to do?
Well, there we go.
Oh, question of the author. Sorry, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection.
Thank you.
I'm ready to answer any questions. I'm ready and willing to answer questions.
Is this your first bill?
This is my first bill.
And could you explain it really quick what are you trying to fix?
What we're trying to fix is when somebody that works for the assessor or the county council or whatnot has an appeal on their taxation, they have to now form a special board separate from the initial boards. What we're trying to fix is that when these conflicts of interest arise, that we use already an existing board. This is not a mandatory program. It is in conjunction with both counties agreeing. It has been tried in L.A. and Orange County with success, and it just simplifies the process, saves money, saves time, saves effort, and allows them to proceed as they normally would.
Wow, that's crystal clear. And you didn't need your reading at all because you had it wired. I'm going to support your bill.
Thank you. I generally do, sir. Mr. Calderon.
Mr. Calderon. I'm sorry. Ms. Torres. Ms. Torres.
I'm just wondering what the Norma Torres treatment has to do with your bill.
Well, the Norma Torres treatment is that when your first bill came up, nobody harassed you on the floor, and I thought that was very nice. That was a very mature way of handling the situation.
I think that is a conflict of interest between my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. I would respectfully request they vote no.
Mr. Calderon.
Well, yes, Mr. Speaker and members, inasmuch as this is Ms. Harkey's first bill, I think it's important to point out that when she makes representations on the floor to the larger body, that they be accurate, because we depend on the credibility and we depend on the honesty of members. And I distinctly heard her say that this was unanimous support out of the Rev and Tax Committee, but I don't see the chair's vote here. And so, was that simply an oversight, Ms. Harkey, or are you just trying to start off wrong on your first bill?
It must have been a serious oversight. Perhaps you were not in attendance. Did you ditch a meeting, Mr. Calderon?
As chair of the committee, it's the only committee I don't ditch.
Well, then you were confused, obviously, as to how you stood on this bill and had further research.
I don't know. I think this is a very serious breach of protocol, a very serious breach of trust and confidence that we have in each other, that we do not misrepresent the facts. I ask for no vote.
Ms. Imada.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to commend the author for bringing this bill forward. It is a common sense conflict of interest issue, and I think that we'd heard a little bit about conflict of interest earlier in our floor discussions today. I hope that we can retain this kind of consistency in our discussions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Harkey, you may close.
In spite of all the criticism and all the pleas to vote no, I respectfully ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, clerk will open the roll. All those vote desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 65, noes 0. Measure passes. We'll now move to file item 201, AB 1015. Mr. Torlakson, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1015 with amendments by Assembly Member Torlakson.
Mr. Torlakson.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is to accept amendments to clarify that the bill does not apply to food products such as whipped cream. Urgent aye vote.
Is this nitrous oxide?
Yeah.
Members will have a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. Members, just for your notice, the Select Committee on Alcohol and Drug Abuse will be meeting at 2:30 as opposed to 2 o'clock. The Select Committee on Alcohol and Drug Abuse will be meeting at 2:30 as opposed to 2 o'clock. Members will now move to file item 203, AB 1369. Mr. Davis, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1369 by Assembly Member Davis, an act relating to home detention.
Mr. Davis.
Mr. Speaker and members, AB 1369 deals with the overcrowding of the California's county's jail system. It will do basically two things. First, it will allow the sheriff or whomever is in charge of correctional facilities, upon approval of their board of supervisors, to be allowed to implement electronic home monitoring program for all of those inmates that are found eligible pursuant to current law. The second thing it will do is it will correct an oversight in SB 959. Some time ago, when we passed SB 959, we did not coincide the punishment with those who escape under the home electronic monitoring program. And so this bill will correct that oversight to make sure that the punishment is clearly indicated for those who might unfortunately try to escape under this program. Basically, I will say in conclusion that our county jail systems have been under a tough review since the decision of the Rutherford versus Block case that limited the numbers of individuals that we can incarcerate in our jail system. With that, I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those vote desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 63, no 0. Measure passes. File item 204, pass and retain. File item 205, pass temporarily. File item 206, pass and retain. File item 207, pass and retain. File item 208, ACR number 73. Mr. Portantino, clerk will read.
Assembly concurrent resolution 73 by Assembly Member Portantino relative to the Early College High School Initiative.
Mr. Portantino.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. For every 10 California students who enroll in high school, just over 3 go on to enroll in college, and fewer than 2 graduate. California is in desperate need of innovative programs that increase our high school and college graduation rates. Early college high schools are one of these innovations. These high schools allow students to earn high school diplomas and an associate's degree or up to 2 years of credit towards a bachelor's degree within the normal high school timeline. The initiative is young, but early data is promising. In 2007, 65% of early college high school graduates were accepted to four-year colleges, and more than 85% graduated with substantial college credit. ACR 73 honors the successes of this model and recognizes May as Early College High School Month, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote and ask that the first roll call be open for co-authors.
Members, the first vote will be for the roll for co-authors. The clerk will open the roll for co-authors. Members, this is for co-authors. This is for co-authors, members. Clerk will close the roll. 65 co-authors. We'll have a voice vote on the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution is adopted. Members will now move to file item 210, SCR 32, Strickland, by Audra Strickland. Clerk will read.
Senate concurrent resolution number 32 by Senator Strickland relative to emergency medical services.
Members will pass and retain on 210. Members will go back to file item 156, AB 1142. Mr. Price, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1142 by Assembly Member Price, an act relating to Medi-Cal.
Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished members and colleagues, AB 1142 is a consumer protection bill that would address the long-standing problem of Medi-Cal beneficiaries who are wrongfully billed for services covered by Medi-Cal. Specifically, the bill requires Medi-Cal providers who bill Medi-Cal beneficiaries for covered services to recall those accounts from collection agencies and/or third-party billing sources. This measure also requires collection agencies to remove any negative credit reporting from the credit bureaus as a result of being billed for covered services. The bill further ensures that if a hospital knows a patient is covered by Medi-Cal, that the information is shared with hospital-provided providers. During this fiscal crisis, I want to make sure you know this bill does not increase the cost of Medi-Cal programs. The bill is sponsored by the Western Center on Law and Poverty, supported by numerous consumer organizations, including the California Welfare Directors Association and the emergency room doctors. We're continuing to work with CMA and the children's hospitals to address their remaining concerns. Low-income households already face mounting financial burdens. They should not have their credit ruined through no fault of their own. I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no discussion, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll. Tally the votes. Ayes 41, noes 18. Measure passes. Members will now move to file item 185. AB 706, Mr. Bell. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 706 by the Committee on Human Services, an act relating to dependent children and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. Bell.
Mr. Speaker and members, this is a Human Service Committee bill that makes a non-controversial technical changes to address some confusion resulting from last year's AB 2341. This bill addressed some of the provisions of reunification of services for children in the child welfare system. This bill is a cleanup bill that clarified the timing of court hearings under the statutes amended by AB 2341 and makes other non-substantive technical changes, and I urge an aye vote on this measure.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll. Tally the votes. 4, noes 0. Measure passes. On the urgency, ayes 64, noes 0 on the measure. Members will now move to file item 167, AB 1439. Mr. Solorio, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1439 by Assemblymember Solorio, an act relating to gangs.
Mr. Solorio.
Thank you, Speaker and members. As you might know, last year in 2008, there were nearly 500 gang-related homicides statewide. We last month or so in Public Safety conducted a hearing regarding how much money there is to prevent gang activity and violence, and we found out that there's actually $1.5 billion in grants for prevention, intervention, and suppression. But we do have a problem. There are 42 revenue streams, 14 state offices involved. This bill is a bill to streamline that funding so it can go to those programs that are most effective in fighting gangs, as well as making sure that they're evidence-based. This bill has no opposition and incurs no state costs. I ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Swanson.
Mr. Speaker, question of the author.
Without objection.
Yeah. Mr. Solorio. This question. Do you anticipate that this would lead to less funding for these programs?
To respond, the intent is to streamline it. There shouldn't be 42 revenue streams. There should be less. There may be some efficiencies that, in fact, there may be an ability to have more grants being given out to those communities that need them. But this bill does not speak to reducing nor increasing the cost. It's merely to streamline and to create efficiency.
So that's the intent.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Solorio? You may close. You want to close?
You know, in closing, I want to speak to the Republican analysis on there. Apparently, it's opposed unless amended. No one spoke to me about what amendments you'd like to see. As it moves over to the Senate, I would like to consider any amendments that your caucus may have. I would tell you that this bill is the kind of bill that you should support. It's about streamlining government. It's about finding fat if there is fat and taking that fat out of these grant programs so that these gang programs are effective and evidence-based. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll. Tally votes. Ayes 42, noes 8. Measure passes. Members will now move back to file item 210 SCR 32, Strickland by Audra Strickland. Clerk will read.
Senate concurrent resolution 32 by Senator Strickland relative to emergency medical services.
Strickland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of SCR 32, which declares the week of May 13th through 23rd of 2009 to be a emergency medical services week in California. This resolution recognizes emergency medical responders of all types, including emergency medical dispatchers, first responders, EMTs, paramedics, nurses, physicians, firefighters, and administrators. These outstanding individuals are a vital part of our society and save thousands of lives every year by ensuring prompt and appropriate treatment of medical emergencies. I believe it is imperative that the citizens of California know about our EMS system in order to efficiently respond to emergencies and also to learn how to prevent them from occurring. With respect to the men and women who provide emergency medical services in California, I strongly support this resolution.
Members, this will be a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Resolution is adopted. Members will now move to file item 136, AB 957. Mrs. Galgiani, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 957 by Assemblymember Galgiani, an act relating to real property.
Ms. Galgiani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Today I present to you AB 957. Since the last major bout of foreclosures during the downturn, a practice has developed in the foreclosure market that is having significant consequences. My district is at ground zero and has been for the last 2 years for foreclosures. So we're seeing different practices before everyone else is. And what we've noticed is that some of the larger banks are directing title and escrow business to only a few larger companies in Southern California or the Bay Area. And under federal law, the RESPA Act, that's illegal. However, it continues to be the current practice in all the chaos of the foreclosures that are going on. My bill enforces that, yes, it is illegal to do that, and ensures that we give the appropriate state agencies in California the ability to enforce the federal RESPA law. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, noes 0. Measure passes. Members, we are going to start the lift on the calls. We're going to begin the lift on the calls. Before we do that, we'll go to one other bill that has not been heard. That is file item 148. AB 469, Mr. Ng. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 469 by Assemblymember Ng, an act relating to taxation.
Mr. Ng.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 469 is a simple measure. It will help us accomplish two very important objectives. It makes an existing California use tax easier to understand by modifying the instructions and providing for an optional use tax reporting table to complete the tax. Number two, it increases compliance among the growing number of consumers that are turning to Internet commerce. The BOE estimates that over $1 billion in use taxes goes unreported each year, and the problem will get worse. This bill will increase consumer compliance and increase state and local use tax collection by almost $14 million. Members, this is not a new tax. Thank you. I respectfully request an aye vote.
Mr. DeVore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise in opposition to this measure. I think it's very important to point out that what this measure does is it forces Californians to begin the arduous process of marking down or recording their purchases. This isn't simply a matter of taking your 1099s or your W-2s, the things that are being returned by an employer. This will result in Californians needing to capture all of the data regarding their purchases to ensure that they've actually paid the use tax that is due to the state of California. Now, with certain Internet purchases, it's becoming increasingly common that companies will, in fact, help California collect the sales tax that is due to that company. But in some instances, for example, you're using eBay and you're making some purchases perhaps from out of state. This may or may not trigger the sales and use tax depending on the type of thing that you're purchasing. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that our citizens in the state of California are already overburdened by the fact that we have become, under our watch, the second or third highest taxed overall state in the country, with, of course, the highest state sales tax rate in the nation. What we're doing with this measure is increase those taxes even further on the overburdened and overtaxed and hardworking men and women of the state of California. For those reasons, I urge a no vote.
Ms. Harkey.
Mr. Speaker, members, I rise in opposition to 469 because this measure fails to address some important concerns that I have. As you know, sales and use taxes are enforced by the Board of Equalization, while income taxes are enforced by the Franchise Tax Board. If AB 469 becomes law and makes use tax reporting mandatory on the income tax return, it could task the FTB with use tax collection responsibilities, but without the responsibilities to administer or enforce the tax. This raises the question as to who would be responsible for auditing people who are supposed to pay the use tax. It could also mean that the FTB could have access to sales tax collection data from the BOE to audit income tax payers. This could endanger taxpayer rights and further complicate an already complicated tax code. In addition, AB 469 doesn't make clear the level of record keeping that would be required of the taxpayers, subject to the mandatory reporting requirement. Would these taxpayers be subject to interest penalties if they don't have adequate records to support their claims? The last thing we need to do is confuse the taxpayers and make the tax burden even worse by requiring them to pay millions more to the state. I urge a no vote.
Mr. Swanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question to Arthur.
Without objections.
Yes. The analysis says that AB 469 would increase annual use tax collections by about $14 million beginning in 2010-11, of which $9 million would accrue to the general fund and $5 million would accrue to special and local funding. And so, could you explain what the intent of the bill is here? Is it to assist the general fund, to develop more efficiency? Could you share your comments on that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Seatmate. The Board of Equalization estimates that currently over $1 billion in this already on the books law goes uncollected and unreported every year. This is a simple bill that will simply increase compliance by allowing taxpayers to comply with the law and could bring in up to $14 million a year.
We're almost on time, Mr. Speaker. I think that it's clear that we're in very serious financial trouble and we're trying to develop reasonable priorities. Any effort like this that brings in additional revenue, and it's a simple matter of us developing more efficiencies, deserves our support, and I ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Eaton.
Mr. Chair and members, this body just a few minutes ago sent many of its members to the Sheraton Grand Hotel to celebrate the contributions of small businesses in the state of California. Members, this bill simply seeks to level the playing field so that hard-working, tax-complying small businesses do not compete unfairly with those businesses that would seek to evade the law and to seek to obfuscate the obligations of taxpayers who want to pay this law that's already on the books. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close roll, tally the votes. Ayes 43, noes 24. Measure passes. We'll move to file item 149, AB 485. Mrs. Carter, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 485 by Assemblymember Carter, an act relating to Civil Air Patrol.
Ms. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. The Civil Air Patrol is the all-volunteer civilian auxiliary of the United States Air Force. They perform more than 90% of search and rescue missions for general aviation aircraft in the nation. They also provide support during emergency situations such as earthquakes, fires, floods, and missing persons. Our brave Civil Air Patrol members do not receive a salary or a stipend for their heroic service to our nation and to our state. But when these members are called upon to serve in an emergency mission, there is no law to ensure that their jobs will be there when the mission is complete. In our current economy, we may lose our vital Civil Air Patrol members because they cannot afford to risk their jobs. AB 485, the Civil Air Patrol Employment Protection Act, would provide important employment leave provisions for volunteer members of the California wing of the Civil Air Patrol when performing authorized emergency operation missions. This bill has received bipartisan support in both the Labor and Employment and Judiciary Committees. To clarify, this bill does not apply to businesses with less than 15 employees. It permits only 15 days of leave a year, and this leave is unpaid. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote? 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 60, noes 7. Measure passes. Members, again, please be reminded that we are getting ready to lift the call, so we need all members on the floor. Before we take up file item 114, I would like to recognize guests who are visiting from San Francisco and Oakland. They are guests of Mr. Swanson's. They are in the gallery. Please welcome the young individuals from the city of Oakland and San Francisco. Members will now move to file item 114, AB 1406. Mr. Emerson, the clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1406 by Assemblymember Emerson, an act relating to county employees' retirement.
Mr. Emerson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Existing law allows the Board of Retirement for San Bernardino County to hire a number of employees outside of the civil service system. This authority has ensured that not only the best candidate is hired for these highly technical positions under the Retirement Board, it would allow the San Bernardino County Retirement Board to directly hire some additional specialized personnel. This bill is needed to allow San Bernardino to better recruit qualified employees for these positions in a more timely manner. This bill is supported by the County of San Bernardino County Employees Retirement Association, San Bernardino County Public Employees Association, and the San Bernardino County Firefighters. I urge your aye vote.
Mr. Krikorian.
The question to the author.
Without objection.
Dr. Emerson, why is the scope of this bill limited to San Bernardino County?
Because they asked for it. If you would like other people to be in here, I'd be glad to do it. But
very well. Clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote? 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 72, noes 0. Measure passes. Members, we'll now begin to lift the call on file item 96, AB 114. Ms. Carter, clerk will post. All those voters desire to vote? 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 Strike the roll. Clerk will strike the roll. The incorrect bill was posted. We'll repost. Just for the record, again, we asked for file item 96, AB 114, for the record. Members, clerk will now post file item 96, AB 114. All those vote desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 54, no 16. Measure passes. Members will lift a call on file item 105, AB 499, Hill. Clerk will post. We're having technical difficulties, and we'll be right at it. Members, while we are figuring things out here, please we'll move to announcements. Members, we'll move to announcements. Wednesday, the 27th, will be check-in session. Thursday, the 28th, will be floor session from 9 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. Friday, the 29th, floor session upon call of the Speaker. Monday, June 1st, there will be floor session from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday, June 1st, floor session from 11 to 6 p.m. Tuesday, June 2nd, floor session from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Wednesday, June 3rd, floor session from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Wednesday, June 3rd, floor session from 9 to 6 p.m. Thursday, June 4th, floor session, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Thursday, June 4th, floor session, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Friday, June 5th, floor session, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Please note. Members will also please be advised of the following deadlines. Last day of Policy Committee to meet prior to June 8th, May 25th through June 5th. There will be no floor ceremonies or guest introductions. After May 29th, no committee may meet without a JR 61 waiver prior to June 8th, except to hear a bill that is referred to committee pursuant to AR 77.2. Members, Monday, June 1st is the last day in Assembly to notice intent to remove a bill from the inactive file if an author wishes to amend by Wednesday, June 3rd. Tuesday, June 2nd is the last day in the Assembly to submit amendments to the desk by 5 p.m. or before adjournment if any author wishes to amend by Wednesday, June 3rd. Wednesday, June 3rd is the last day to amend measures on the Assembly floor and the last day to notice intent to remove a bill from the inactive file to return to the third reading by June 5th. Thursday, June 4th is the last day to amend a bill to add or delete an urgency clause. Friday, June 5th is the last day for the Assembly to pass non-urgency, non-taxed levy Assembly bills. Please note. Members will now take up, again, a couple of bills that are on call. The clerk will lift file item 105, AB 499 Hill. Clerk will post. Strike that. Be patient, members. Be patient. Members will have a Democratic caucus meeting immediately after the adjournment of session. Please be advised. Members, Mr. Pettis, V. Pettis, would like to welcome members of his community from the Coachella Valley, Mayor Kathleen DeRosa and Mark Carnevale. Please welcome them in the rear of the chamber, Thank you for visiting. Mr. Tirico.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under motions and resolutions, because of a computer glitch, there are 18 bills that are currently on call. By unanimous consent, pursuant to discussion with Mr. Valines, Mr. Blakesley, and Speaker Bass, we will rescind and expunge the votes on all 18 matters that are currently on call, and have agreed to take those up as a first order of business next time we convene on the floor for floor session. That's by unanimous consent.
Without objection, and for the record, I believe it's 17 bills. Without objection, the clerk will read.
File item 105, Assembly Bill 499. File item 119, Assembly Bill 1276. File item 123, Assembly Bill 572. File item 117, Assembly Bill 828. File item 120, Assembly Bill 694. File item 135, Assembly Bill 1422. File item 146, Assembly Bill 287. File item 125, Assembly Bill 742. File item 147, Assembly Bill 291. File item 154, Assembly Bill 1069. File item 155, Assembly Bill 1070. File item 157, Assembly Bill 1169. File item 162, Assembly Bill 1326. File item 170, Assembly Bill 730. File item 180, Assembly Bill 943. File item 181, Assembly Bill 958. And file item 182, Assembly Bill 975.
Without objection, we'll rescind the action and expunge the vote on the bills that were just called. Is there any further business to come before the House? Seeing and hearing none, a motion to adjourn is in order. Mr. Tirico moves. We can hold it over. Mr. Tirico moves. Mr. Tran seconds that this House stand adjourned until Thursday, May 28th at 9 a.m. or upon call of the Speaker. All those in favor signify by the usual sign of aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. The quorum call is lifted. Members, please be reminded there is a Democratic caucus meeting in the conference room. A Democratic caucus meeting in the conference room.
Vote change Jones, file item 190, AB 1152, aye to not voting. Vote change Jones, file item 190, AB 1152, aye to not voting.
Jones, Assembly Bill 1150, aye to not voting. Jones, Assembly Bill 1152, aye to no. Correction. Correction, Jones, Assembly Bill 1152, aye to not voting.
Vote change, Assemblymember Manuel Perez, AB 571, from aye to no vote.
V. Manuel Perez, Assembly Bill 571, aye to not voting.
Yamada, Assembly Bill 734, Hill, aye to not voting.
Yamada, Assembly Bill 734, aye to not voting.